Welcome to Flesh and Pod, a flesh and blood podcast, breaking down weekly news and notes from the tournament scene, community drama, game strategy, and more. And now, here are your hosts, Daric and Logan.
Hello, and welcome to episode 159 of Flesh and Pod. My name is Logan. I am your host. With me, as always, is Arakmer today, Daric Oswald.
Today and every day.
I guess, yeah, probably every day now. Considering you have one for every day of the week, you might as well, right?
We actually have more.
There is more. That is true. There is more than one for every day of the week now.
In fact, there's one for every day of the week just in the new set. Assuming that the teaser art where we had the 6 different kinds of spiders is, all versions similar to Black Widow that was spoiled today.
We know it is.
We have those 6, and then the base one, Marionette for the adult or Web of Deceit for the young one. That's 7. So that's just in one Arachnia. We have one for every day of the week, and then
we will get to all of that, but including the things that we have found out from our brother Josh Scott about how all of this works, because it is pretty incredible, honestly. But let's start with the Calling Chicago. This past weekend, you and I were both there in the Flesh and Blood. A highly unusual outcome, to be honest, with the two of us being in the same place at the same time. But we had a lot. I had a lot of fun. I think you had a lot of fun too.
I did. I had as much fun as I think I could have, all things considered. I've had a hell of a year, but I've also definitely already had a hell of a month, and we're only halfway through December. And so I will fully admit I was not in the best headspace when I first arrived. And so it took me a bit to kind of get going to where I needed to be. But once I got playing, especially like on Saturday, I was having a lot more fun. I will say, if you're wondering how my calling went, I finished 4-3, but that was after an 0-2 start. I was, of course, playing Bravo Star of the Show because I'm just a lover of all things Bravo. It's the only time I ever get to play him. Yes, of course, he's good in Living Legend, but even if he wasn't at the top deck, I'd probably still play him all the time there because it's the only time I can play him. But my day started, the reason I started 0-2 was because in those 2 games total, I fused 1 time. My first game of the day was literally, I open up my pairings for the calling, and it's like table 2. Table 2, oh, okay. Who am I playing against? Brody Spurlock. And then I proceeded to fuse 0 times in that game. I didn't even fuse until halfway through my second game of the day. So considering that, I think the 4-3 finish is respectable. I also played 0 mirrors, and I will fully admit I was teched quite a bit for the mirror as far as my sideboard choices go. So not running into any of them felt weird. The changes I did make just to the base deck actually proved to be very effective in the other matchups I expected. I did well into Visceri. Except for game 2 where I again just only fused once and did nothing that game. I beat the only Dromai I played, which some folks had said that they had been struggling with, but it turns out if you frozen to death their furnace, it makes it a whole lot harder for them to do anything.
That's true.
So yeah, just overall I had a good time. It just took me a while to get into it. And the one big takeaway, and I said this to Peter while I was there, and I know I said it to you, but my big takeaway, I'm just a fan of the Living Legend format kind of as a whole, and I do think it's more diverse and more interesting than people give it credit for. I know some folks are going to look at that top 8 and argue with me, but when I was walking the top tables before the top 8, though, there was actually quite a bit of diversity. It's just, I think that the Bravo Star of the Shows won their win-ins, because I even said to you, I went past one of the top tables and it was a Prism versus a Chain, for example. And so one of the Chain won, so they got in.
They're in.
But there was more diversity there than I think people realize if you weren't there playing the game. But the thing that was most encouraging to me was that after day one of the calling, when Logan and I were walking through various hotels to get to and fro, trying to use the Skywalk because it was raining in Chicago pretty much all weekend, there was a lot of people playing Living Legend after. It wasn't like they showed up and they were like, oh, I'm going to do it because that's what the event is and I have to. Like, people in the hotel lobbies, and I'm not talking like I saw a game. It was like 5 or 6 games of people still playing Living Legend. So I'm just kind of hoping that people went like I did and had fun, and that they will look forward to these events in the future.
You want to talk about the Crab Rangoon now?
I mean, if you want to. I had the best Crab Rangoon I've ever had anywhere. Three Little Pigs.
Yeah, Three Little Pigs in Chicago is world famous for their crab rangoons and fried rice. And so we went on Sunday before we left town, and Charmer got there like about 15 minutes before I did because I went to the wrong place. And by the time I got there, he had a box of food that he was just finishing in like 2 crab rangoon. And so I order an order of fried rice and an order of pot stickers. That's my order. Order of dumplings, order of fried rice. And sitting there waiting for my food, and Charmer just goes, I'm just going to go order more of those fucking rangoons, and stands up and goes to the kiosk and just orders another order of rangoon. And I'm like, okay, all right. Sure, I guess. And so then my food gets there, and I pick up the bag, and the bag weighs like 3.5 pounds. Like, what the fuck? And I take out this enormous carton of fried rice that is packed in there. And it was like 2.5 pounds of fried rice. I'm just like, the fuck am I going to do with this?
It was a brick. Like, you could build a house with this thing. So much so that when he opened the top of it, the packing was so tight on this fried rice that I watched it like surge up. Like, it started overflowing out because like the pressure had been released for this fried rice that he had ordered.
Utterly delicious. It was so good. And then as we're there, the owner and head chef shows up and just chats us up for a little bit. Really good dude. Kind of explained the process, that why their crab rangoon is different. They had a interview type show playing on the TVs with him on it on the Food Network while we were there.
Yeah, there was 2 things that were playing like on loop, but one of them was from Vice. Like, it was
one was Vice, one was Food Network. Yeah, and it's just like, god damn, and it was like, for that giant brick of fried rice that I still have another meal of it to go. It was like $15. It was not expensive. We're just, holy shit, this is incredible. But let's talk about the
lemonade. Oh, sorry.
Oh god, the lemonade was also
good. The head chef owner, the all-star, the superstar, while we were chatting him up, even though we already had drinks, he's like, did you guys have the lemonade? Let me get you a lemonade. So like, he just gets us lemonades, and then he says to us, a lot of people say it's too sweet, and so, being Midwesterners, me and Logan immediately think of like county fair lemonade, which is just wet sugar.
Yeah.
It's just wet sugar. Turns out that was not the case. And the lemonade was actually really good as well.
Perfectly tart. And that sweetness. I'm just like, how is this too sweet?
No,
this
it was
just
not
tastes
too
like
sweet.
Fucking
it was
lemonade. Right.
Yeah.
This is like lemonade. And that was incredible. Like, let's pat back to the event really quick. So a couple of things that I want to hit into before the top 8. There was a history of draft event that MinMax put on. It was $300. You get to draft all the draftable sets going backwards in time. What they didn't tell people, and much credit to MinMax and LSS for this, was that the Arcane Rising and WTR drafts would be alpha product. And apparently in the WTR draft, 2 tunics were pulled.
2?
So 2.
Oh, I'd only heard the 1.
2. So good on them in all respects, because that's pretty incredible. And so hats off and honestly, hats off to MinMax Games, #no free ads. Peter, you should sponsor the show. But they did a great job running the event. It was super smooth. When you looked around, you just saw the staff you just saw the staff you'd want at a calling, right? It was the usual suspects that are almost always on there to make an event run smoothly. and it did. Outside of John trying to catch that bird with the box, outside of that,
no, I would argue that was still smooth. Well, maybe not in terms of success, but he made it look good.
The only thing I regret is I did not get the opportunity to see Brian take the Malort shot, but I did. The aftermath on BlueSky is there, where he basically called Peter a terrorist for enabling it, even after he asked for it. But community-wise, this big shout out to everybody that showed up. Also, a big shout out to everybody that caught up with us to say hello and to donate to homeless shelters across the country. We were giving out, we had called out on social media that while we were there, we'll continue doing this throughout the season. So this is your warning to DM me with this. If you want a scarf for a scarf promo, is donating to homeless shelters. Just send me proof of a donation of $5, $10, $20, whatever, to a local homeless shelter. You can either DM it to myself or Charmer, and we will send you a copy of Scarf for a Scarf. Basically, we just want to make sure we're having a good impact with these. LSS gives them to us for free. Why wouldn't we try to do something good with them? And we had an incredible response to that while we were in Chicago. Tons of people came up, including a good one, the very last one, where guy comes up and he's like, hey, I heard you guys were doing, Scarf for a Scarf, so donating to a shelter. Here's my proof. It's a really one that's important to me. It's in downtown Detroit. And Charmer looks at me, he's like, you are not taking this one from me. And I'm like, all right, buddy, all you. But that's not the best one. The best one is the person that walked up to Charmer to him and showed him a picture of himself and said, have you seen this guy? I heard he's giving out Scarf for a Scarf promos.
Yep. People just don't know who I am, man.
I just don't get it. Like,
I wish when I met you that, like, when I told you that story, it was a bit, but it's just reality.
It is.
It's been my entire life.
It is also a bit, but
it's a bit because, like, if I don't make it a bit, then I'll just cry, right? Like, I have to laugh through the
It has to be a bit. Yeah, it's eventually you work so much that your work becomes a shoot, but and you got to live the gimmick at some point. But the event was really well done. Shout out to everybody I hung out with, Summer, Ian, Rachel, Phil, and then special, we went and had dinner with Trevor Baker, the head of Premier Play with LSS. He'll be on the show next week. So if you're listening to this and you have questions about Premier Play, send them to us or come into our Discord and put them there, because it's much easier for me to find them. But so we'll have him on next week. We had a really good talk about a lot of different things. We drank a lot of good beers and had some really good food. It was, great time, honestly. So a big shout out to everybody that we got to hang out with and spend time around. It had been months since I'd been around the community at large, and it felt good. It felt like I was home. It felt like I was in my good place, and that was very helpful for the old mental health right there. But amongst all that, there was an event. And that event was the first ever Living Legend calling. It was won by Michael Hamilton on Starvo in a Starvo mirror against Easton Douglas, beating up somebody on his birthday, the Michael Hamilton way, the angel of death, just yet again, sniping the hopes and dreams. But the real crux of this, and I think that you alluded to this, that people are going to latch onto, is that the top 8 was 5 copies of Starvo with 2 copies of Chain and a Viscerai.
I just want people to know the room was not nearly as heavy-handed.
No.
And the top tables, it's not like all of the top tables were Bravo. It just looked like when Logan and I did our final stroll before the cut to top 8, there were several that were on win-ins that were paired against Bravos, and it just looks like they lost.
They got their asses handed to them. Yeah. And there was a lot of, because I know that there was a ton of Viscerai in the room. There was quite a few Briars. There was quite a few Zens.
There was so the two that surprised me in terms of representation, and I'm not saying that they were a lot, just more than I would have expected, were Dromai and Florian.
Now the Florian became kind of a known quantity. It kind of slipped out of that kind of confidential testing area last week. I want to say the CYB Florian deck that was running around. Dromai I expected because of how well it was doing in skirmishes. It was the second highest win total in skirmishes to start the season, and behind Starvo. Or no, behind Viserai. Starvo and Dromai had the same win share. But I think that was before the unrestriction of Starstruck. So here, what you're seeing, though, is kind of that shakeout of there sort of is in LL less decks, even though there's more heroes. There is the problem kind of a less decks. And some things just aren't around. A good example would be Peter Budensick was there playing, but he wasn't playing Kano. We were convinced up until the point that he sat down for round 1 that this was a fucking psyop.
Yeah.
And it wasn't.
I was like, until I see a round start with a hero not Kano in front of him, I'm on the he's playing Kano train.
This shit's a psyop.
Yeah, he didn't.
No, and he was his message. That's a loud and clear message that Kano's not really playable into this. And same thing with Majin Bay was in the room. He didn't play the main event because Kano's bad and Icelander's not great either, and there wasn't much Icelander out there.
No, I think I saw 1 or 2 tops.
Right. And Briar has a Starvo problem.
Yeah.
And
I think that's fair.
It's totally fair. You beat the ever-loving shit out of me over and over again. And I think that Zen has you're gambling with Zen.
Yeah.
It's did you combo check, combo for more than 30 in a turn? Check mark yes, check mark no.
Well, and based on the Zen game that I played, so I did play against one Zen. They were just shy of 30. I want to say they presented like 28 in one turn. And don't get me wrong, like that was a significant number of pressure. They couldn't do it twice. I do think that you have to have either a literal, like, one turn kill, game winning turn, or you have to have 2 big turns.
Yeah.
And the problem was they had 1 big turn, and then I hit my disruption.
Yeah. My round 1, I told you about this, but my round 1 playing Briar was, okay, Anthem of Spring, Force of Nature, fuse with Anthem of Spring, play Anthem of Spring, make an embodiment token, attack with Snatch, Snatch 6, go again, on hit, draw 2, no blocks. Oh, I'm dead. Thanks for letting me know. Unless I can find a channel in this turn through card draw, I can't win. And I didn't find a channel. I drew 5 cards off that Force of Nature because I took Ball Lightning out of the deck because it really didn't do much. But hello.
We just live got a new spoiler.
Oh,
it's a yellow, but it's a common. I don't know if this is going to be a cycle or not. If it's a cycle, this card is very good.
Okay, well, let's put that in the other chat here.
Yeah.
Huh. Fuck me. Any rate, and so I presented like 27-ish that turn, and my opponent just took it and then presented 48. And that's a bigger number.
Yeah.
Ate my hand, ate most of my equipment to stay alive. I actually knocked him down a little bit closer to my life total, but then they found another Art of War and I couldn't deal with it.
So my Zen game, the Zen player could have presented a lot more, but I fully blocked out the Tiger Swipe that would have like pretty drastically extended their turn. Again, in part due to some of the changes that I made just to my base deck that just really worked well for me. So I was very excited about that.
Yeah. And then this art is actually hilarious too. But I feel like the format diversity in the room is not the top 8 diversity, but at the same time, it's pretty clear that Starvo is the best deck in Living Legend again.
Yeah, I think, I will say the Starstruck, going back to being able to play 3. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Starstruck is a hell of a card. I think that the combination of that becoming unrestricted along with some of the decks that are less impacted by Starstruck not being well positioned. So it's like two things happened at the same time, right? Like Kano became worse, and that was a deck that doesn't care really about Starstruck. While Starstruck became more plentiful, and then you have a bunch of decks, you like you said, Viserai was very well represented in the room, right? Zen was there. Starstruck is brutal into them. So you kind of fed the flames. I also want to point out, again, the Flesh and Blood is a game where your good players, they are able to take whatever they're piloting and usually do very well with it. So again, I'm not going to say Starvo is not a strong deck. It absolutely is. But when you have people like Michael Hamilton or Lucas Oswald, who is also in the top 8 on, Starvo,
or Ryan Rich or Brian Lawrence, or
exactly. Right. So the pilots also really tell the story as well, right? Like, now it is entirely possible that they are on Starvo because it is the best deck and they're very good at, reading that. So again, I'm not saying the deck isn't strong. I'm just saying that this top 8 is very deceiving, as somebody who is, actively watching what was going on at top tables throughout. It's more like, I think going forward, I would still expect this deck to be the overall best performing deck, but I don't think that it would, if we ran this event 5 times, I don't think that we would have, start of the show be half of the top 8, every time.
No,
you know what
probably
I mean?
not.
I think that the number, like, an average number is probably closer to like 3. Like, I think it would be a safe prediction to say like three of your top 8 is going to be Starvo, but it just shook out the other way this time.
Yeah, it did. And I honestly felt like the Living Legend format is fun. I had a good time playing it. So
yeah,
no real notes there. The banned and restricted announcement came out today, and it just said no changes. That was the text.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think I agree with that in all forms and fashions for the moment. As time goes and there are other Guardian cards that potentially come out, I can see Starstruck going back to the one-of list, or Somersault getting a little bit of a... I know you didn't play it, but most of the people playing Starvo in the room, probably everybody but you playing Starvo in the room, was playing at least 6 copies of it and using it to pretty good effect. So
after this weekend, I think that the proper number for the list that I wanted to run anyway, I probably should have been on just 3 blue.
Sure.
At no point. So if you're listening and you're wondering, basically, originally I had the standard 6, the blues and the yellows in. I wasn't really satisfied with running that many because they don't block, and I only ever, at least in testing, really wanted to run them on offense. Like with Oakenold, they're outstanding every other time, especially because now that I'm also running like 3 copies of Starstruck in my list and things like that, I didn't have a lot of stuff where I was not using most of my resources to play the cards from hand so that I even had the Starstruck left over to bounce. Like it required a lot of effort. And again, very powerful play to like recoup your best offensive stuff in Star of the Show, but it just didn't feel good. So what I ended up doing on the day of, playing on the day of, I made my decision before I left on Friday, but I said, okay, where the yellow and blue somersaults would be in my list, I ran 3 red and 3 blue lightning surges. I ran the red ones because I was expecting some Dromai, not as many as showed up, but I was expecting some, and the extra go again to clean up dragons is nice. Turned out it was great. I used 2 of them in my Dromai matchup to clearing up a a Chromai, and I forget what the other one was now. Oh, and an Asvali or whatever. But it was just nice. It kept them from developing the board where they could ever bounce back. It did exactly what I wanted it to do. So I would keep the reds just for that. The blues, I just ran them because like I kept missing cards that I wanted to block with. I did also keep track of like every time I had them in my hand, would I prefer if they were a somersault? It never came up on the day of, but just because it didn't come up doesn't mean it's still not correct. I think if I were to run it back again, I would just change my blue lightning surges to blue somersaults. Yeah,
it was in the one during the event, the one Starvel match that I had. It was used to really good effect just because my opponent was able to have a free unmovable. And when I was presenting a large snatch, it was crown, block, snatch for 7, crown, block 6, and then somersault them back to my hand. It's like, sure.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
No, I mean, I can totally see that. Like I said, I think that 3 is probably correct. I will also say though that even against you when we were just playing our games for fun, I caught you with the red lightning surge, I think a couple of times too, for just the extra
once or
pressure.
Twice. Yeah. So, and that was good. It was most of the time as you caught me completely with my pants down, with a pulverize, and that just,
yeah.
Shit.
So I will say this as well. The number of times in the actual calling, so not my side games against Logan, in the actual calling I played Pulverize was 6. There was only one round I didn't play Pulverize, okay? The number of times I played it off of Awakening in the calling was 0.
We played 5 games just sitting at a table jamming games, and you did it to me 4 times.
I did it to you 4 times. Yeah, I was going to say, I did it to you 4 times off of Awakening. I never Awakeninged for Pulverize in any of my games because the Awakenings never lined up, and I kept getting Pulverized when I had very weird hands. So, like, again, that game 1 against Brody where I never fused, is just because I think this is comical. I was doing everything I could to stall. I had drawn, I don't know, like 12 or 13 of my ice cards in the first 3-4 turns or whatever, like counting turn 0.
And Brody's on chain.
And Brody's on chain. So I played very early a channel like Frigid, and then I was just doing everything I could to keep it around. And when I got to one of the turns, I was like, okay, well, my choice, because I have Tunic up at that point, my choice is I could do some other stuff and then just like Arsenal the Pulverize to get it back in the deck for Awakening, or I can pitch these 3 blue ice cards and use my Tunic and just hard cast Pulverize, but also keep my channel like Frigid around. So that's what I did. Listen. And that just set the tone for the day. I hard cast Pulverize so many times.
Sometimes you hard cast a Pulverize. I did avenge you on the one Lexi loss you had.
Yeah.
Because it was a fun little game where my opponent went to 2, and they went and blew their arcane barrier, blew their bullseye bracers. And I was like, okay, and I'm at like 2. I'm like, there's never going to be a turn where they don't pressure me to the point that I get to play an attack and non-attack and attack with Thorn.
Mm-hmm.
That's just not realistic. However, they don't have AB anymore. And I picked up my graveyard, counted it, and went, okay, Arsenal this burn up shock. There are 5 more sources of shock in the deck. Just gotta wait. 3 turns later, my opponent's like, do a thing. And I'm like, yeah, block 6 with my hand. And he's like, pitch my hand to do this. And I'm like, cool, no resources floating, no shenanigans, nothing you can do. Just shock you and then shock you.
Yep. Double shock is instant.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Got him. Sometimes that's how you have to win games.
Thankfully, granted, again, it was just our side games, but I properly identified that as an out and played around it. I am sometimes smart.
That definitely would have killed you.
Yeah.
But again, the event was a lot of fun. And I hope that sometime in the future that we get another LL calling. This was not, it was one of the smaller callings that had been out there, but it was a lot of fun for the people that attended. MinMax put on a great event, and again, just kind of hope to see more of it. Maybe MinMax runs the calling in Detroit. You never know. No, there's not a calling in Detroit, but we're trying to speak it into existence. Moving on, we've got spoilers, kids, and woof. Well, let's start at the tippy top.
And we don't mean woof in a bad way. I mean like bark, like you made me bark, you dominatrix, you LSS.
So let's start with Arachne Marionette. So this is our base Arachne. It is your 440 hero with I can't put into words how gassed this art is from Eswardi Theriento this time. Ejor just decided to go as hard as humanly possible. Sure. Sounds great. So the text
it's very Lovecraftian. Like,
which is why I love it.
I mean, that's why I love it too, right? Like when I saw it, I immediately thought of like there are different versions of like Azathoth that you'll find. But there's ones that you'll see where he's got a bunch of eyes. And in the art for Marionette, what I assume is supposed to actually be his cloak, for whatever reason, the pattern there reminds me of eyes. And I was like, man,
well, it is eyes.
It's
the eyes of a spider because.
Oh yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I thought of like Azathoth or, you know, some of my Eldritch horrors.
Really cool. So the text on this thing is your attacks with stealth that are attacking a marked hero get +1. And when this hits, this gets go again. Okay. Sounds like fun. The other text is at the beginning of your end phase, if an opponent is marked. So again, we are Karl Marxing, Richard Marxing, Groucho Marxing, lots of Marxes. You become a random agent of chaos. So what we didn't really know is what is agent of chaos, but now we do.
Sort of.
We do. Because we got the text for we've got 2 texts on agents of chaos so far.
We just have one.
Slip through the cracks is an agent of chaos.
Are you sure?
It's not, so that part of the card is blurred out when you look at it, and I'm pretty sure it's because of this. So I am 90% certain that that's an agent of chaos. Could be wrong, but
let me pull it up, because the last time I looked at the card on the thing for the world premiere thing, right? Yeah, so Agent of Chaos is like it's like a subtitle, right? So you got like the title of
Arachne Black Widow,
Arachne Black Widow, and then Agent of Chaos below it. So Slip Through the Cracks doesn't have Agent of Chaos like in that slot.
Oh, it doesn't.
There's no templating. It's just the adult version of Solitary Confinement. Whereas on some of the promotional art where we saw the 6 and a bunch of them were blurred out, Slipped Through the Cracks' art was also not in that spread of 6.
Oh, sure. So it's
right?
not. Okay.
And those 6 are all named after different types of spiders, and obviously Slipped Through the Cracks is not. So I think it's just going to be those 6, and I think that's one by design, because the one that we got, Black Widow, mentions returning to the brood, so I think it's the 6 broods of spiders.
Yep.
And also just mechanically, as we're about to get to, the rolling a d6 is just nice and clean. For your randomization, so I think keeping it at 6 makes sense.
So the interesting that Slip Through the Cracks is probably the 4th hero in the set then.
No, it's just Arachne.
What do you mean?
Regular. So that's the other thing. I don't know if you've noticed. So they've updated the thing for the 4 Blitz decks kit. It's just Arachne, like young Arachne, old school Arachne. That's the 4th Blitz deck.
So is it just Arachne Huntsman?
Well, yeah, but because the Blitz decks are young heroes, it's just Arachne. It's not Solitary Confinement, it's just Arachne, which is the young version of Huntsman.
Huh. That's so weird. Okay. So anyway, Arachne Black Widow. We're back to this. For intellect. So this is interesting. None of the Agent of Chaos doesn't have a health total listed. It's just a star because your health total doesn't change. But it does have a listed intellect. And that caught me a little off guard because why, because at the beginning of your end phase, you return to the brood, you revert to your base hero. So why, I'm curious if there's any playing with the intellects on these, but regardless, right? Text is, this is the first of the brood because there's a 1 in its numbering. Once per turn attack reaction, discard an assassin card. Target assassin attack gets +3 attack. If it has stealth, it gets when this hits a hero, they banish a card from their hand. That's scary. It's going to encourage a lot of overblocking. And against certain decks where they just can't block well, it becomes an incredible tool to start peeling their hand while sneaking damage through. Now, the neat part of this is the 1 is important because the 1 signifies which, agent it is. And there are 6 of them, 1 through 6. And the way these work, we have learned, is when you're playing Arachne Marionette or in Blitz Arachne Web of Deceit, you have all 6 of these demi heroes with you. They're token rarity. There are marvels of them, but they are token rarity, and you're required to have all 6. And whenever you trigger Arachne Marionette's ability, you basically randomize the 6 and you get one, whether that's by rolling a d6, or which is why they numbered them to make it clean, or some other form of randomization. But you're required to have all 6 of these cards with you. They are not part of your inventory, and so they don't take up inventory slots. They're just part of the hero, I guess, is the best way to think of it.
Yeah.
So you transform into a demi hero. You're that demi hero till the next turn, till the end of turn. Then you transform back to your original hero, to your marionette form, and then can do it all again if you're able to mark an opponent that turn.
Well, so here's the
that's a lot.
Here's the fun part, okay? I've already been thinking about just with what we know, all the ways I can already have fun with this, right? So first of all, as you said, Black Widow likely going to encourage a lot of overblocking because you don't want to lose the card from your hand if you can help it. You know that they're going to have what is likely a minimum of +3, but that in and of itself is like getting a card out of their hand, because if they know that, it's cool that you're just turning any assassin card you have into a 3 value, right?
Yeah.
So
they're all
you could have
presses.
Like a blue shred, but then that suddenly upgrades itself to +3 instead of, the -2 or whatever because of the effect. But also because your opponent is banking on it, if they're going to overblock by 3, then you can just do nothing and you still got an extra card out of them. Or if they overblock by 3 and then you have a red shred and now you get an extra card and then the card you banish, right? Like there's all of this fun interplay just with Black Widow, let alone the other ones. But what really makes me...
Are we going to talk about the most fucked up card we've seen in a long time?
Well, no. We are going to, but I want to touch on this other part. What really makes me think that this is going to be a very fun and interesting hero when you can build around it. So the marked condition lasts until you hit the opponent, right? Like they get the marked card and they are just marked until they've been hit. So Web of Deceit is, your attacks with stealth that are attacking a marked hero get +1/+0, and when this hits, this gets go again. Now, the undertone here is that if you let that hit, it sucks because it got extra, attack, and it gets the go again, but it also gets rid of the marked status, right? So they can't just chain a bunch against you, but also if you're afraid of any of the agents of chaos, depending on the game state, your opponent might also actually be incentivized to just let you hit them to get rid of the marked status. An assassin has a lot of really cool on hits in it, just like as a class. So pairing the like marking and then sending relevant attacks and making your opponent literally pick their poison is the exact kind of like psychic damage I enjoy inflicting. It's why I like playing the assassin class. And now when you get to randomize, what I am hoping to do, and now I will be nice, I will ask, I'll say, would you like to roll? But I wanted to make my opponent roll so that they have the extra damage inflicted of, hey, you ended up with this, right? Like, I love it. I love it so much.
Now we're going to talk about the most fucked up card I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, this card is bonkers.
Card is the hand that pulls the strings. It's an Arachne Mentor. It blocks 4. Okay.
Just standard, straight up 4 block. And because it's a mentor, like if you're, keeping track at home, that means it's really good against overpower as well. So if it's your one card from hand against dominate, it's already really good at a natural 4. But also against overpower, you can just slam it in there, baby. Like, this card is great. Yeah,
it's a majestic, and so the text on this one is once per turn, attack reaction 0. Turn this face up. Activate this only while this is face down in your arsenal. Yep, it's mentor text. Well, mentors usually start a turn. This is a little bit different.
Yeah.
While this is face up in your arsenal, your first attack with contract each turn gets go again. If it's attacking a royal hero, it gets +1. Oh, that's really good. There's a lot of really good contract cards out there.
And there's going to be more.
At the beginning of your end phase, destroy a silver you control. If you don't, put this on the bottom of your deck and draw a card. So it replaces itself. Here's the more fucked up part. At no point in reading this did I say, this can only be in your deck if your hero is young.
Also, at no point did you say the word legendary.
Right. So you just get to run a 4 block that is in a contract build pretty much just pure upside.
Yeah.
It doesn't pitch. That's the only thing it doesn't do.
And knowing what we know now about just regular Arachne being the 4th deck for the Blitz box, and knowing that this mentor exists, I am very excited for this set. I was already wildly excited, don't get me wrong. Full stop. Couldn't be happier. But as somebody who also just enjoys playing, original OG Arachne a lot, now that I've seen both this mentor and I know that the regular Arachne is the 4th hero, I'm very excited for this set because it means we're going to get more contract support.
Yep. So let me just go ahead and read some of the cards that are contract cards. You may recognize some of them. Already Dead.
Mm-hmm.
Eradicate.
Mm-hmm.
Leave No Witnesses.
Seems good.
Surgical Extraction.
Very good.
Well, here's the fun part. Also Defang the Dragon, which also has stealth.
Yes.
So it is good with Arachne and also
Arachne.
Hand that pulls the string. And we've seen 2 of those so far. Extinguish the Flames, Defang the Dragon, and they're both commons, which leads you to believe there's more, and probably a lot more.
You know what this is going to sound really dumb, but do you want to know what I really hope we get? Even if it's not part of this set, just somewhere down the line. You know how ninjas have all this stuff where it's like you can name a card for whatever reason so that you can complete your combo line? I kind of hope that we get something that's like a non-attack action that just says falsify records, and it's just your opponent's hero name changes for this turn so that you can defang the dragon even if they're not Fang, for example. Like, I think that would just be really fun.
That would be fun. So back to kind of the discussion here. We also got, so we've got quite a few things we got quite a few spoilers here. I'm just going to run them down in order from the things that we haven't seen or have really talked about yet. First one is Thickhide Hunter. It's a 2-for-6 block 6 yellow brute attack action. When this attacks or defends, discard a random card. Fine. Not great, but fine. It doesn't, the best part of this for brute is that you don't need a card in hand.
Right.
For the condition. So it's not the whole part of the cost thing, which is good for it. If this was a blue, it would be the most automatic 3 of in history for brute. It's a yellow. It's probably still going to get played. Next one is Tremor Shield Sabatons. So these are Guardian boots.
Yeah.
They are Blade Break block 1s, which still better than Iron Rot.
Right. Finally.
Instant, destroy this, prevent the next 1 arcane damage that would be dealt to you this turn. If you've controlled a seismic surge token this turn, this prevents the next 2.
Oh, seismic turd token.
Seismic turd token. That's all they are.
Yeah, so obviously we'll have to ask Josh Scott when he's on. I think these are slightly better than they look specifically against like Rune Blades where you have split damage, because depending on the timing of this, I feel like you should be able to block and then also as an instant do the destroy to prevent arcane that might be coming later.
Yeah, it works that way. Basically,
right.
You go to the resolution step so that the block is there and damage has been calculated, then you would blow these to do the thing.
Like these feel like, I'm not saying this is the case, right? I have no inside baseball knowledge here, but these feel like the sort of things that were designed when Thorn was still legal and they gave you a way to block physical and then have a floating to prevent for Thorn.
Sure. Very well could have been. But they are Guardian boots that don't automatically suck. We also get Rolling Fisher. So this is an X+1 blue block 3 Guardian action. Destroy an aura with cost X or less. Then you may destroy a seismic turd you control. If you do, repeat this process. So if you're staring down a Genesis or 2 Genocide or 2 Prism auras, you can just blow them both up by paying for this and sacking a seismic surge. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
It also has Go Again, which is not normal for this type of action in Guardian. So
one of the like really weird niche cases, it's hard because I don't know how you're going to get the seismic surge token. This being X and 1 is like what really keeps it from being turbo outstanding in my opinion. But thinking back to my heyday of like, man, I really hate Arc-Light Sentinel. It would have been really nice to like pitch 2 blues to then also like play the Rolling Fissure, get rid of it, and then use your last blue to Anothos still on your turn. And you know,
can do that with a Tunic token or a Tunic counter.
So that's what I was going to say. But then the problem with that is if you're playing Tunic, then you're not likely running plating, and then you've got a much more difficult time getting a good, you know, clean source of seismic surge tokens, right? So then the next is like, okay, maybe you arsenal this, and then it's just like your 3rd card or whatever. I mean, I think that this is still something where, depending on how the meta rolls, you might consider it. I can still think of plenty of decent uses for this. I really, and again, I think this is probably why, but I really would have liked if it was just a nice clean, like 2 blues plus this gets rid of Arc-Light Sentinel so that you can just swing.
Luckily, ALS right now is just not really played in CC at least. Next up is Chain Reaction. Ranger Defense at Reaction Trap. 0 cost yellow blocks 3. When this defends an attack with Go Again, you may turn a non-attack action card in your arsenal face up. If you do, you may play it this turn as though it were an instant. Good. Just good.
Yeah. I mean, Riptide likes it.
Riptide loves it. It's also really neat against some decks that are playing a lot with 4-card hands and going wide. And then you just put a Codex down there. You block with this on their first attack. Then you Codex, make them discard a card. And then they put a -1. They're going to put a -1 attack in their arsenal. So it's a nice little, like, it's a clean. It could be like a block 4 type situation, just doing that, I guess. But it's just okay. This is good. This is fine.
You know,
the next. Oh, go ahead.
Well, so you were talking about the, like, you know, Codex of Frailty thing. You also could make an argument that this, like, for Riptide could start making Codex of Bloodrot pretty playable as well.
Also true. Yeah.
Because not only are you making them put the card down, but then also, depending on what their resources are like, they might not be able to pay for the Bloodrot Pox either. And so between the trap ping and the Bloodrot token, like, it could be an extra 3 damage while stopping their turn, essentially.
And inertia just kind of puts them behind the 8 ball too. So maybe all the Codexes are a little bit more playable with those. But although the Frailty did not need help.
Right.
The next one is Spurlocked. Now, this is Brody's invitational card. I do love the fact that there is a ham sandwich in the art. So that's perfect. No notes.
I appreciate that he's wearing boots with spurs, and it's Spurlocked. If you're going to throw a pun on a card, I'm all in.
Yep, you sure are. And that he's sitting at a poker table, so you just decided to level up your puns as well.
It just occurred to me that we skipped totally past when we were still talking about the Arachne thing, that we forgot to mention. It says Return to the Brood. We mentioned the Gangrel thing before we started recording.
Did.
Shout out to LSS, who keeps giving us pro wrestling references.
Yep, my wife is sneezing her head off.
Yeah, she's allergic to my love for the Brood and Gangrel and Edge and Christian.
I don't think that's true.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
At any rate, so Spurlocked is a blue block 3 chaos action. So we only have 1 known chaos hero so far. Two, sorry. We have 2 known chaos heroes so far. So they're the ones that can play it. Each hero secretly chooses a number between 1 and 6 when those numbers are revealed. The hero that chose the highest number loses that much life, searches their deck for a card with the cost less than or equal to the chosen number, reveals it, puts it in their hand, then shuffles, go again. So basically, it's a 0-cost tutor. You just got to outbid your opponent.
Or not outbid them to make them take a bunch of damage.
Sure.
And then hit them with surgical extraction and take it anyway. Whatever they went to get.
So it's a little social deduction type of card. Kind of fun and probably playable because it's a blue block 3. The floor is real high when it's a blue block 3.
Now, if I remember correctly, somebody had said that Josh had answered a question about what happens in the case of ties, and I believe it's that both players lose the health, but no searching gets done because neither one had the higher.
Right.
Which is even better because now if you are just caring about the damage, getting your opponent where, like, they don't want you to get something specifically, so they bid 6 and then you bid 6 and then you both lose 6, but you're the aggressor, can also be really good. There's a lot of fun with this card.
Yeah, I like it. I like that they got through the templating on it and made it something very interesting. So shout out to LSS again. Next one is Warcry of Bologna. I don't know what is good for Bolton cards, so somebody tell me if this is okay. But 0-cost yellow block 3 light warrior attack reaction. Target rating gets +2 attack this turn. Instant discard this, banish X cards from your soul. The next time target weapon deals X or less damage to you this turn, deal that much damage to its controller, and that damage can't be prevented. So basically like a reflection type of thing. Think like they're trying to smack you for 3 and they also take 3 as well. It's really what it seems like.
But it can't be prevented. So
right. They just eat it.
This feels really good against illusionists.
Sure. Yeah.
Like specifically the word-based ones.
Yeah. Next one is an insanely awesome art card, on a card, Cull. And 0 cost, block 3, Shadow Runeblade action. You may play this from your banish zone. If your hero has lost life this turn, you may play it as though it's an instant. Each hero banishes a card from their hand. Good card is good.
Yeah.
I think I might have talked about that with Mara last week, but I just wanted your take on the art on this one.
I mean, the art is outstanding. It would make an absolutely stunning playmat.
Yeah.
I hope that someday we get Chain back.
Oh, it's a really good Vinsat card too.
I mean, it's a really good Vinsat card, but it's also a pretty damn good Chain card. He's just immediately in my mind because we just played Living Legend.
That's right.
So,
last but certainly, well, sorry, we had 2 left. One of my favorite cards, Provoke. It is a blue block 3, 1 cost warrior attack reaction. If you're attacking with a weapon this chain link, the defending hero reveals a card from their hand. If it's an action card, add it to the chain link as a defending card. Otherwise, they discard it. Clean.
mm-hmm.
And you can really mess somebody up doing this. Because if they've already committed to blocks and they're down to 1 or 2 cards left in hand, you can just peel one of the last cards out of their hand, which may fuck up their turn pretty bad. And if they don't have anything to reveal that matters, they just discard it.
Yeah.
It's like all I have is reactions in hand now. Yep.
It reminds me a lot of Siren's Call.
Right.
Now,
has the same effect.
you as the warrior don't get the potential to like draw a card, the replacement effect that Siren's Call has, but you do have that potential of like they either straight up discard a card and then you probably get bonus damage on top of it, or you're still like forcing something out of them, right? So your defensive warriors, like when I saw this, I thought like Decimator Dory probably really likes this card.
Yep, Decimator Dory loves this card. If you wanted to play a hot streak build of Kasai, this definitely helps with that. Same story with Sabers. If you're looking to make, your Sabers go big, and they are an attack heavy deck, you can just peel an attack out of their hand to block with it.
See, so this is the problem. You and I, as you just said before, and I'm in the same boat. I don't traditionally know like what is good or bad in Bolton. And this being a blue instead of yellow, I think probably hurts it for Bolton. But just thinking about Sabers and your combo turn, right? If you are peeling a card early in your combo to buff your Saber and also get rid of their blocks down the line.
No, it's very good, right? I think this is just a super playable card for Warrior in general. Because getting cards out of your opponent's hand sometimes is kind of hard on turns where you're not threatening, real good on hits. And so in this case, it's kind of like tempoing them out a little bit. It's very good in things like Decimator, though, where you are...
Again, like, I just don't play enough Warrior, but now that I'm thinking through this even more, this could also just be like really good for like a reprise build too, because you could just be forcing the reprises to turn on.
Correct. Yep, there's a lot of that too. It's really, really good. It's not busted. It's not send over the top awesome, but it is very good. And there is also the last one is the card we got literal minutes ago. This one is Laylo. This one's a common, so we don't know if it's a cycle. The flavor is perfect. So this is the yellow of it. It's a block 3, generic defense reaction. So if this is a, if this is a, like cycle, and this is 0 for 4 block. That'd be interesting. I don't know that would be the case, but we will find out, I guess. It says if you are marked, you can't play this. So there's your drawback, right? If the attacking hero is marked, their next attack this turn gets -1 attack. So if it's a marked hero that is trying to go wide a little bit on you, this effectively blocks 4 as a yellow.
Right.
But if you happen to be marked, then you just don't get to play this. And the way marked reads is you're marked until an opponent hits you. So sort of an important thing there too, because the second, so if you're marked and they attack you for 3 go again, you can take the 3, get rid of the mark, and turn this back on for the next attack.
Right.
So
yeah,
important.
There's I think going to be a lot of very cool sequencing interplay when we get to play with the marking and unmarking mechanics of this set.
Yeah, and you know, it's a dagger set, so you never know. So I'm still wondering, like, I really want to know what the daggers do at this point. Like,
I'm
really
guessing they
know.
poke people.
Well, probably. That's normally what daggers do. But yeah, I'm as I'm looking at this setting, I'm just even happier to go to Prague at this point. Because this looks insanely fun. And I've always enjoyed, like, I really do enjoy what's the best way to put this? I really do enjoy the way that they're doing spoiler season now with sending the Majestics out there and kind of keeping most of the commons close to the chest, because that's going to make the world premiere real bizarre, and I'm here for it. But yeah, I'm super interested. Did we have any listener questions?
I think so.
Out. Yeah, probably. Let me go look. I as you can tell already by how meanderingly this is going, I did not make any show notes whatsoever. Oh, I'm in the wrong fucking Discord. That would help.
If you could assign a genre of music to each class, what would it be and why?
Oh, this is the same listener that thought you were Gottlieb.
I'm not.
No. You would be much happier living in a better country. Interesting. So let's take some classes here. So I'll start with Guardian. What genre is Guardian? I'm thinking like classic rock.
Yeah, I could see that maybe.
Like, they seem like the type of people that would show up at like a Journey concert.
Yeah, that, or I was gonna think like, I was trying to think of a way to describe the genre, because it's not really a genre, but it is. Stadium rock.
Yeah,
like,
no, stadium rock is a genre.
Like,
that's Journey, Foreigner, REO Speedwagon, Boston.
No, I was thinking of anything you hear at sports stadiums. So like
jock rock. You're thinking of jock
rock. Yeah. So like the AC/DC Thunderstruck followed by like Seven Nation Army, sure. Like the songs you hear in stadiums, that feels very Guardian to me, because Guardians feel like offensive linemen to me.
Yeah, but most offensive linemen are listening to like, well, I guess I can only go back to when I was growing up and they were all listening to fucking like Puddle of Mud or
yeah, but that's the
Stained,
Yeah, I just feel like that's going to be more up your brute alley.
Probably. That's probably very like, yeah. Brute's going to be, well, part of me thinks Brute is also that like sort of tribal metal, like Sepultura, type
yeah,
shit.
Maybe. I was trying to draw like a happy medium and just say like your standard brute is like the big guy in the pit at a Slipknot concert that will always protect the little guy, but will, you know, beat the absolute shit out of somebody who does something incorrect in the pit, you know?
Are you trying to say that was a brute in the past life? But
yep.
I'm okay with that.
You was a brute,
yeah.
But then you died and they buried you in the earth. So technically you're an earth brute.
Never died. Not an earth brute. I'm not channel out brute. Ranger. Night Ranger is Night Ranger genre.
Dude, this is so easy. Ranger listens to trap house music.
Fair enough. I'm just gonna let that one stand. Assassins are industrial rave.
Something industrial for sure.
Yeah, definitely like 9 Inch Nails. And
anything from the Blade soundtrack.
Correct. Yep. That's a good way to put it. They'd probably even listen to like Fear Factory and shit like that.
The Dust Brothers.
Yeah, right. Perfect. Tricky and the Gravediggers, you know. Warriors have to be like 80s hair metal, I think. That just kind of makes sense. They would be listening to like Here I Am, Rock You Like a Hurricane, unironically. That seems like where they would go with this. Who's our 90s alternative and grunge class? Who's our Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Stone Temple Pilots, Alice in Chains, Mudhoney?
This might come as a shock. I think that might be the Illusionists.
No, they are yacht rock. They are Hall & Oates. I don't
know. Most cops I know listen to like 90s grunge and 90s alternative, but then they don't understand the lyrics.
They don't. What they listen to is the bridge alternative of like basically the new metal version of grunge. So they don't listen to Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, Mudhoney, Nirvana, but they do listen to Creed, Three Doors Down.
Well, I mean, they do listen
Nickelback,
to those, but they do also listen to like Rage Against the Machine. They just get the lyrics.
They don't get it. Like they don't understand the fucking concept.
Right.
Okay. So, because Ninja would be a pure techno. I think the mechs are listening. The mechanologists are listening to some form or fashion of punk music. The problem is that it's the widespread spectrum of it is what they're listening to. So it kind of goes everywhere, with Dash listening to one thing and Teklavasna is listening to like.
I have Rune Blades are new metal. Rune Blades are your like Linkin Park.
Yeah. That makes sense, but like your Shadow Rune Blades are like typo negative.
Sure.
Yeah, they're Switchblade Symphony typo negative. They're goth and more or less.
I think Ninja. I'm having a hard time really pinning it on any of them, so I think Ninja actually might be the closest that I have to being our rap fans.
That could be.
Like, I totally see Benji listening to Wu-Tang. I'll put that out there.
Well, I mean, I think that Ira and Benji definitely listen to Wu-Tang, because you look, they're both wearing scarves. So they know to protect your neck. And they're definitely, you know, they're there they're killer bees, that's for sure. Yeah, I could see Phi being like an Eminem fan. That would make sense.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm on board with that.
Because I was struggling. I was like, I don't know which class really fits rap, but it's got to be somebody, right? So
yeah, it has to be the Ninjas. and they cover up the genres. Like Katsu's a rap fan, but really loves MC Hammer. Like, yeah.
Zen's a fan of like the Slow It Down, like early Dre or
early
Warren G stuff. Like,
yeah, or he kind of like, he probably listened to Jay-Z a lot too. Just a little bit of Edge, you know, but not a ton. He's one of those people that thinks you can be a fan of both Tupac and Biggie. What are we missing? We covered that.
As far as classes, we don't have Merchant, Shapeshifter.
Oh, Merchant's got to just
we haven't mentioned Wizards.
Merchant is straight pop. That's all there is to it. Yeah. Shapeshifters, I feel like would be. Like
I have an opinion.
House, you know, like dub or whatever.
I have an opinion.
All
and
right.
I think you'll be on board with it. I think shapeshifters are your friend that says like, I'll literally listen to anything, but then when you put country on in the car radio, they get angry at you.
They say not that. Yeah.
That is Shiana.
Yeah, that's Shiana. She has taste, so she won't listen to this bullshit.
Yeah, unless it's like old, like good
rebel country, sure.
Yeah.
But if you put Kane Brown on, get the fuck out of the car.
Right.
Is that a person?
I don't know. Luke Bryan, somebody with 2 first names.
Yeah,
right?
Sure. It sounds great. Or 2 last names for that matter. I don't know. God, what else? Merchants are definitely the pop musicians.
Wizards are Grateful Dead or anything that you should be on drugs to enjoy. They're a Fish fan.
Oh, they're jam band fans. That makes sense.
They are 100% jam band. They're like, all right, this is where I do my solo, and they listen to Fish for 9 minutes while they're literally fishing for the combo. They are Fish fans.
They do nothing but wear hemp necklaces and with beads on them, and think Birkenstocks are cool. That sounds about right.
Yeah.
What else? Merchant Merchant is that, Bard.
Oh yeah, Bard.
Bard is me like standards like Sinatra and Dean Martin and Tony Bennett. You know, that kind of troubadour-y type of stuff is my guess, or big band maybe like Lawrence Welk.
So I was gonna say that they kind of fall into they'll play anything, but they just do it with the Bard flair. So like they're just Bardcore. Okay, I'm in. Right? Like,
yeah, that's fine.
You're hearing a song and it sounds kind of bardy, but then you listen and you're like, wait, is that a Disturbed song? And then you're like, oh yeah, it is.
They listen to Richard Cheese.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I
think that's all the classes.
Yeah, I think
Wizard was the one that I think that we were really forgetting.
Well, sure, but for good reason. Well, I think that when we get alchemists, that's going to be your 90s grunge people, because that's a lot of heroin. Like, a lot of heroin. Yeah. So that makes total sense. I'm actually going to the hero page, so I don't fuck this up. If we put the subclasses in, it gets a little bit different. We covered that. The
mothership just shared the skirmish week 3 results.
Oh.
So Blitz wins for week 3. Zen came out with 10, then KO at 9, Levia at 8, Blaze at 7, and then it starts to drop off.
That's got to be Blitz.
Yeah, that's what I said for Blitz.
Okay.
Living Legend, the most in wins in week 3 were Bravo Star of the Show at 5, Zen at 4, Viserai at 3, Prism at 2, and then a bunch of 1s. But the thing that jumps out to me in the 1s is a Jarl. won a Living Legend.
All right.
Turns out Jarl that can play Crown of Seeds is probably pretty good.
Why not just play Oldhim?
Oldhim did get 1 win as well.
Okay.
Maybe they just really like the Jarl specialization that fetches Mangle.
If you love Mangle, I mean, I guess.
Because the interesting thing, like, hear me out. Oldhim's hero ability is definitely strong, right? But if you're just looking at it from a card pool standpoint, all the stuff that Oldhim can do, except for Endless Winter, Jarl can do. And I do think Jarl's specialization, like, block is actually pretty good. So...
yeah, it is. It really is.
I agree with you. Oldham's probably still better, but I don't think that gap is as big as it seems at first glance. Because you can still play Oakenold and Jarl too, so you're not really missing out on much.
Okay. So, after hearing how... this is from Zaris. After hearing how Mara, Empress of Volcor, thought Aurora was boring to play, and having similar thoughts about Ira myself, do you guys have any heroes that you find boring to play? How about heroes that are considered bad that you enjoy playing, and why? Boy, howdy on that one. What do I find boring to play? Guardian. Like, honestly, Guardian is what I find boring to play. I have the hardest time focusing playing Guardians.
I have a hard time playing... I actually talked about this weekend. What I call flat value Guardian.
I think that's what I'm really talking about. But yeah.
So I think this is why Victor doesn't resonate with me the way that, say, Bravo or Starvo does. Because, like, Bravo he's still a Guardian, but I think anyway he's at his best when he's being offensive, right? He's landing his crush effects, he's making use of his hero ability, he's disrupting through getting that damage in, whereas Victor, like, he's got some disruption tools, but they're not nearly as flashy or consistent, and you're just most of the time you're just looking to just have bigger numbers than your opponent every turn, whether it's on offense or defense. And that doesn't appeal to me as much. It's the same reason why, like, I liked playing Cheerios Briar, but, like, I could never play the Charles Dunn version of Briar. No, it just wouldn't appeal to me.
Can't play Chonky Briar. I do it, again, for bad heroes. Kasai is bad. I really love playing Kasai, but Kasai is pretty bad.
Arachne.
I don't know, like, here's the problem with that statement. Arachne is not bad for long.
Not for long.
And
here's the thing, even when he was bad, I still enjoyed playing them though, right? Like, I've definitely played him in metas where I should not have played him.
The one hero that comes to mind that is Terra bad, that I love playing more than anything, even more than Shiana Money Pile, is KO Berserker Runt. Roll them fucking bones. Let's see if I can 40 somebody in a 20 health format.
Well, this is why you're going to join the Arachne train with me.
100%.
So
there's a D6. Yeah, I'm going to roll these nuts, see what happens. And the fact that there's this dice rolling on Staple to the Hero is something that is attractive, because fuck it. Embrace chaos. We ball. This is what we do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
From Geeks First, how's Jarl shaping up? Is the Armory deck on par with power level of prior releases? Are they fair-ish matchups, Armory into Armory decks? Thoughts? So it seems like it is. I mean, I haven't seen it much lately. I also know that, like, there's no real good reason to focus a whole lot, especially for me. Or anybody else that's, like, kind of looking ahead a little bit, to focus on CC, because we do have Hunted before then, or before the next CC season. So it's really hard to think of it in that context. But I feel like the deck's a watered down Oldhim in a lot of cases. Because we did find out very late in Oldham's life that Endless Winter is a hell of a card. And probably, Oakenold existing, and the way that it was played in Starvo kind of made us not play Endless Winter when we should have. But we kind of learned. And you don't get Endless Winter in Jarl.
Right.
I also think that like while the focus on Mangle is cool, it's not the best thing in the world, right? It right now is probably look at the rates on Guardian cards and tell me that Mangle is better. It's not. So why this hero's kind of centered around playing a card that isn't as good as a lot of other cards that are already out there that are just better rate.
Well, I mean, that's where the gloves come in. Like,
I get it.
You pitch stack because you have 4 dual Earth Ice cards available when you're playing Yarrow, right? Because of the specialization. Mm-hmm. So if you pitch stack, and you can make sure that when you're doing your 2 blues to pay for the boosted Mangle, right? Making it go to a 10 dominate, like at that point, the crush effect doesn't even matter. Like, you're just getting your steps in, right? Like, and I think if anything, that is the real indictment, is just that to do the thing, right? Mangle ultimately just ends up kind of feeling like steps, glacial footsteps quite a bit. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, that makes sense. Okay. I'm on board with that. I don't have much else. It's been a hell of a fun week, though. Like it
has.
We did some good work, and we only have like 4.5 weeks or whatever before we're in Europe and enjoying that assassin life again.
Dude, I'm gonna have such a blast.
Yeah, I'm gonna have so much fun. Looking that good beers are €2 a piece. And that you can stay basically anywhere in Prague and Uber to the venue for like $6. All right. I could probably figure out the public transit system too if I really wanted to take the time to do so. But yeah, it's really cool. I'm also looking forward to being there with you because I know how much you love other countries. I mean, I do too. So,
I do love other countries, and I do love assassins. Yeah. And I feel like saying I'm really excited to bring the two together is probably going to get me on a watch list. But
yeah, don't do that. The FCC is listening at some point in time.
Yeah.
So the only other thing I can do is I'll just sit there and stare at my copy of Giant Size X-Men #1 to keep me happy until we go to Europe. But it's right here, by the way. It's right here. It's so pretty.
It is.
It's
can't believe people were not putting respect on Banshee's name though.
Banshee's not first appearance is not in that book. It's X-Men 28. Sure? It's X-Men 28. I know because it's on my list of things that I don't own. 1967.
Yeah.
Yep. It's on my because it's on my list of things that I don't own from 100 down. As I don't own a 28. But so Banshee's great.
Yeah, it's just that's when he makes his return.
Yes. So
similar to it's not Wolverine's first.
It's his second.
It's his return.
It's his second appearance. Yeah.
It is Thunderbird's first though, right?
Yes, and Death. So it's a 50-year-old book, so I'm pretty sure that's not a spoiler. But so it's Thunderbird's first, Thunderbird, Storm, Nightcrawler, and
Colossus. That was the reason I own it. I love Colossus and I love Juggernaut, and I've got my original commissioned art of Colossus, my big Juggernaut statue, all that, and so that's why I used to own a Giant Size, but I've never owned an X-Men 12. That's
first Juggernaut.
Yeah, one of my white whales that I never did own at any point.
I don't think I own I don't own a 12. I know that. I do own a first appearance of Havoc. But I think it's Havoc and Polaris are the same issue.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Now I got to check.
He used to have
Because
a
that's
pretty
54. I own that
yeah.
one. Yeah.
He used to have a pretty extensive comic collection with a ton of firsts, but back when I was hunting for Juggernaut, that was like early eBay days, and let me tell you, searching for X-Men 12 on eBay was a nightmare because you'd get all the 12-inch tall action figures that would come up.
Mm-hmm.
And the early eBay didn't have like the way you could manipulate keywords to exclude all that stuff, so like it was a nightmare. And then you would go to shows, and you know, Comic Cons and Wizard Worlds and whatever back then were always like the worst place to buy books like that because they were always like overpriced. So
you can get a decent X-Men 12 for $450. That's
yeah, I mean,
intact.
It was it was just always the problem with trying to find it back then, right? It wasn't like a price issue for me at the time because that was back when I didn't have kids and before Sophie and I were married.
right. Like all those things do play in.
Right. It was just literally, it was really hard to find.
Yeah.
But I've also, so I've never had Iron Man's first appearance, but I have owned.
You had an Iron Man 1.
I had an Iron Man 1 for a long time. Yeah.
Yep. And I have 15, 16, 17, which is all the Sentinel stuff. I don't have a 12, but I do have a 13. And I have 54. People are going to be bored shitless listening to us talk about this.
Listen,
that's fine.
We have Comics Corner and people ask about it. And so
they
now
do a lot, actually. Polaris is X-Men 49. So apparently I don't own that one. I have Havoc, so which is 54, but apparently I don't have Polaris.
I would have swore I thought I remembered that they were the same.
I thought they were too, but apparently that's wrong. But yeah, let's just get out of here. This was fun to do. Just to kind of have a nice chill episode to talk through our week, our weekend. And this is you can probably expect something like this when we get back from Prague, even though maybe a little more, even a little more hyped, but we'll have a good time. But next week, like I said, we have Trevor Baker from LSS. So please get those questions in. Let's go ahead and thank some patrons before we get out of here. Yeah, we should do that. Yeah, they're good people. Our associate producers, we have Andy, Sindra, Jacob, and the Salty Sea Cat. For executive producers, we have Blaze Storm, valued member of the Patreon, Lance Good Thrust, Matt Two Tokes. Spent a lot of time around Maddie this weekend too. It's always a good time talking to Matt. Poxonus, Sergeant Isbjorn, still possibly my favorite name. Vintox, Philip, Rich, Sergeant Swanson, and Matt, our newest executive producer, is gunning for us, it turns out, because he has subscribed at the level that he gets to guest host the show.
Okay.
So if that holds for the 3-month requirement, we will have a guest host on the show. As they are That's
great. You and I can take a week off.
I don't think that's how it works.
Oh, man.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But no. I mean, I will love to have a listener, a patron on the show just to see, how they choose to interact with the show in real time, because we know how the fappers out in the wild interact with us as is. So let's see if they're willing to be the same on record, because they get a little they recognize who they're talking to. Let's put it that way.
Sometimes.
And they act accordingly. Well, they don't recognize you, but they know what we're like. And so we can have candid conversations about bidets, and things of the such. And it's always a good time. But if you need to contact us or at the show, you can send us an email at fleshandpod@gmail.com. You can find us on BlueSky. Just search Flesh and Pod. Biggest thing you can do, just join the Discord. Links in the show notes. Come hang out. Oh, I guess I should say the whole thing. If you want to be a member of our Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/fleshandpod. Links in the show notes. There are a bunch of tiers, including the $40 Chargers Chamber of Charcoal tier, which gets you a guest hosting gig if you maintain it for 3 months. I don't know why I ever put that in there.
Because you wanted to list all my names.
I kind of did.
Yeah.
But Daric, where can they find you?
The Discord's the best place. BlueSky. I use my URL, so it's just charmer.com.
Yeah. Prague.
You should definitely say hello to me in Prague.
Yeah.
If you can find me and recognize me. You know, maybe that's why no one knows who I am. It's because I've had the stealth keyword this entire time.
I've been waiting for you to say that for like 2 years. Like, it's been that long when I first thought of, like, I'm surprised he hasn't leaned into the stealth keyword.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because nothing about me is stealthy. That's the problem.
No, it's really not.
It's really not. That's what makes it. It would be one thing if I even attempted to, I don't know, like live a semi-private life or something, and maybe that's why people didn't recognize me, but I don't.
That's also why you get in trouble with the government.
Yeah.
Just posting videos.
No,
shouldn't do that.
Live.
Yeah. Live streaming. My bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's an hour and a half of a show that means nothing because apparently we just decided to Seinfeld the shit out of this one. But
what's the deal with this episode?
Maybe that's what I'll title it. But I don't know. I don't fucking know.
I don't know, man.
Actually, yeah, that's the title. Fuck it. I don't care. All right. Well, that's our show for this week, everybody. So join us next week for 160, I guess. Yeah, 160. We definitely will be doing it because, again, we have a guest. So please get the listener questions in. Anything you wanted to know about Premiere Play that we can possibly get answered, ship them on in, and more than happy to ask Trevor. He has intimated to us that he would like to challenge for Josh Scott's record for longest show. So strap in, kids. It might be a fucking ride, but until then, we'll talk to you later. Bye.